Whether it's parking meters, water bills, or even paying for things like the art tax, more than 9 million times people turn their credit cards over to the city of Portland every year, but the city can't even begin to promise that they'll keep it secure.
It has now been 6 years and the city still doesn't meet security standards required by Visa, MasterCard, and the rest of the industry. It's known as PCI. This came to light 6 months ago after a scathing report from the city auditor. Now we ask, what has the city done to get its act together? The city of Portland takes in tens of millions of dollars to credit and debit card transactions, putting it in the top tier of merchants. In November, the city auditor revealed those transactions haven't been safe since 2009 because the city has never complied with all of the standards requirements, and the city has not fully implemented recommendations or remediation steps to secure payment card processing.
We will get the city into payment card industry standard compliance.
That was the city's head of technology promising in November to overcome funding and staffing problems.
I would tell you it has to do with prioritization.
He has since retired, while the city is still at work trying to fix its security issues. And 6 months later, would you turn your credit card number over to the city?
I often have.
We went to the mayor's office to find out where the effort stands. Do you think the city has devoted enough resources to fixing this?
I think so. I think we've put the chief administrative officer on it, and he has a committee working on it. That's our tech people, as well as the people in finance working on it. So it seems like it's the right number of people who can get to it.
The audit revealed the city is failing in all 3 credit payment categories, each with 12 standards of PCI compliance. You can see the city only got 7 out of 12, 7 out of 12, and 10 out of 12. 6 months later, the city can't tell us how close they are to closing the gap, saying it's too soon to talk specifics.
I would say that's quite a long time to be out of compliance. Most of your larger businesses around the country, they kind of get it at this point.
David Ellis is Director of Forensic Investigations at Security Metrics. His company was recommended to us as experts in PCI compliance when I contacted the organization behind PCI. That's the Security Standards Council, which is backed by American Express, Discover, MasterCard, and Visa. Ellis says the longer the city is out of compliance, the longer it faces more liability.
It's an investment that typically pays dividends. In cases where level 1 merchants have been breached, the cost of the forensic investigation, it can be great. It can be well into 6 figures. In addition to that, the fines that can follow, for example, we looked at some of the large breaches like Target and Home Depot and others. They paid, tens of millions of dollars.
The city told me it's doing the following: working to transfer the system that accepts credit cards from the city to an outside company, created a work group to ensure all bureau security needs are met, reviewing rules to comply with PCI standards, added staff hours to the project, and hired an information security manager. Perhaps the best indicator of where the city stands comes from a meeting of the city's advisory committee in April. Notes say the city is speaking with external vendors to potentially partner in the process and alleviate staff overload. It says the city has given itself a deadline for PCI compliance of December 31st, but work must be completed 3 months before the deadline so auditors will have time to audit the system. If the city passes, it will finally join 97% of similar merchants which already comply with the PCI standard. Do you think you should move that deadline up sooner so that you can guarantee to people who are giving the city their credit cards where you stand?
I think it's probably worth doing it right. I think we could create a false deadline if we wanted to. Doing it fast and doing it right. If we had to pick those two, probably doing it right's better.
The city stresses, and it's an important point, there has not been a security breach. We also sampled some of the larger cities and counties around here to see what they're doing. Beaverton, Hillsborough, Salem, and Washington County all tell us they are PCI compliant. Vancouver told me it expects to know by September. Gresham says it's buying computer hardware that could take another 3 to 6 months to receive and install. We also talked to a local computer security company. They're called Luminant Digital Security. We talked to them about small businesses and how they're doing with PCI security.
Well, for small businesses, a lot of them, quite frankly, just don't understand it. We've run into businesses that will do their best, their conscientious best to figure it out, and then they still cry uncle and reach out for help. We've also run into some businesses that basically say, well, I know what they want to hear. And so that.
All right, so what is a customer to do? The best piece of advice we were told out of all this, pay with a credit card, not a debit card. That way your cash in your bank account, that'll be protected if your information is stolen. And of course, you can always pay with old-fashioned cash.
Right.